What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 133 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends, or click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. When we come back, we'll get into this episode entitled Snapping Turtles. Welcome back to episode 133 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast entitled Snapping Turtles. Okay, I'm sure a bunch of you are wondering, what's this going to be about, David? Well, to me, it's going to be a comparison of how when our anger becomes rage, we can be like the snapping turtles that are looking to snap at anything that comes our way. Okay? So we're going to focus not so much on anger management, but really looking at that stuff that turns into rage, that turns us into these snapping turtles. Cool. So the first place I looked for information was a website called Pet Keen USA, and I wanted to see what they had to say about snapping turtles, and I quote, "Prehistoric in their appearance, snapping turtles have a somewhat aggressive look. However, snapping turtles are not aggressive and will only attack if they feel threatened or exposed. This is most likely to happen when the animal is on land. They feel more comfortable in the water, where they spend most of their life, and where they are agile and comfortable moving around. The reptile is less comfortable on land. They are not fast movers, and while they can use their sharp claws to dig, it is not necessarily their best course of defensive action. Therefore, if a turtle feels threatened or exposed, and it cannot see a way of getting away, it may attack." That's a good way to start, everybody. So I want to pick a couple of pieces out. Think about times when your anger turned into rage. Did you feel threatened or exposed? Too vulnerable. Maybe you felt like you were that turtle out of the water, and that, the water is where you're comfortable, where you spend most of your life, and where you're agile, moving around. So think about those places in your life when you feel like a turtle out of water, where you are uncomfortable, where you're not fast on your feet, and that those things that may be functional in the water are good for nothing, so to speak, on the land. So when you feel threatened or exposed, you turn into attack mode. You with me? For a little more information, I dug deeper into an article called Why We Snap, From Road Rage to Barroom Brawls. And this was in Discover magazine back in January of 2016. And this looks at the work of R. Douglas Fields, a gentleman who's done a lot of scholarly work digging into understanding rage and scientifically trying to see what's up with this. Where do we go to control it? And in this article, Why We Snap, they said, and I quote, "We call it snapping only when the outcome is inappropriate. But if you look inside the brain and look at the mechanisms that have been activated, it's the same process that's vital to responding quickly to any threatening situation. This mechanism isn't the cerebral cortex. It's not conscious, because cortical thinking is too slow in a sudden, dangerous situation." Shaw, Can you hear that? Scientifically, we have this part of our natural reaction, our reactions to threats, our reactions to danger, that it doesn't have time to go to our brain and think up a variety of choices and come up with the best one. It's that same sort of instant response that we read about in the news every couple of years when someone found the strength to lift a car all by themselves off someone, or someone who couldn't even swim themselves was able to jump in and save several people. It's this spring to action that, had we had the time to think it out, we would be trying to determine where to go for help. What equipment do we need? What process would be the best way? What's the safest for everybody involved? And by that time, it would be too late. And R. Douglas Fields, when he worked on this, he came up with 9 primary triggers that the human rage circuit is included in. And he put them in a mnemonic, like those acronym things. The word is LIFEMORTS, LIFEMORTS, for the 9 primary triggers of this human rage circuit. And some of these may be a one-time triggering event, or they may be an ongoing situation or circumstance that keeps us constantly stressed until we snap. You see, stress is the major factor in snapping. And it becomes that threshold for pulling all of those 9 triggers, because the threshold is lowered when we're under stress. So if you're held up in traffic and suddenly enraged, ask yourself, why am I angry? Because anger is an emotion that's sort of preparing you to fight. And, National Geographic outlined these 9 things also in 2016 in an article called "Your Brain is Hardwired to Snap." So for me, that means our brain's wired to constantly be on the lookout for threats. And Fields says that, and he says, in response to sudden danger, we react automatically. You can't think about it. Can you hear this, guys? You can't think about it. You don't have time to think about it. So let's look at these 9 things that are just in us as reactions that come out, that people may see as rage, but really are just natural reactions. 1 is a life or death situation. That's pretty self-explanatory. There's tons of things that come out of all of us in a life and death situation where there is no time for thinking. The second category that Fields has is insult. The I is for insult. And if you think about it, how when someone says just that right insult, often if they make the insult about a family member, what comes out of us is rage. We don't even think about it. We don't even take time to consider if they were just joking or they didn't mean it. Rage just comes out. And speaking of a family member, the F in LIFEMORTS, the third one is family. And this same rage comes out of us when we are protecting our family from attack, or protecting our family from accidental harm. Often it's a non-thinking response to be the protector. The fourth letter is letter E for environment. And this, like our family, we find ourselves protecting our territory and our home for survival, for existence, for safety, for comfort, whatever it may be. Our home becomes our territory, our spot. And sometimes rage comes out when we feel that our environment is being cringed upon by something. The M is for our mate. And we hear many, many cases where people go to the use of violence to protect their mate. People that normally wouldn't ever think of using violence or being a violent person rage comes out of them when their mate is under attack. The sixth one, the letter O, is one that we can see a lot, especially in the States right now, but most places of the world, and that is, it's O for order in society. And this is the rage response to social injustice. When people have been living under oppression, people have been poor too long, being held down, held back, not giving the same opportunities as other people, being incarcerated at a higher rate, whatever it might be, that this boils in us and boils in us and boils in us, and finally there's a tipping point. We see something on the news and it can't be anymore. And protest rallies start and often quickly fall into rage because this has been in us too long. And rage is our way of trying to maintain social justice and to make up for social injustice when we see the order in society is not how it should be. The seventh, the letter R, is resources. And Field says this is violence to obtain or retain our money and our possessions. So it's that thing when home invasions happen. It's that thing when people get mugged or we witness someone else getting mugged. And it just brings rage out of us because it's just so unfair, and the people have a right to maintain their resources. As I record this, I'm currently at the Tower of Life homeless shelter in Krugersdorp. And one thing that stirs me to the point of rage is when I see people predatorily after the pensioners and the old guys to get them into debt through loan sharking, or to bum cigarettes off of them, or bum 10 rand to go get something to drink or whatever, because they know that the pensioners just received their monthly check. So I want to spring into action to help them retain their money and possessions. The eighth one is T for tribe. And that is when, at a moment's notice, we will go on the attack, or we will do anything to defend our tribe from others, to defend our culture from others, to defend the respect of our people group from others. And ninth one, and this one will include a lot of us, the S in LIFEMORTS is for stopped. And this is when we feel that we're being restrained, imprisoned, cornered, or impeded from pursuing our personal desires. The frustration of being locked up, incarcerated, the frustration of living institutionally, the frustration of feeling we're cornered and there's no way out, the frustration of being held back from pursuing our own desires eventually can boil over in rage. So again, those 9 again are L for life, I for insult, F for family, E for environment, M for mate, O for order in society, R for resources, T for tribe, and S for stopped. And as I close, in summary, I just want to say your issue may not be one of anger management, but actually one of stress reduction. You hear me? Anger management can focus on the wrong thing. It can focus on how do you get self-control in your anger so it doesn't erupt. I'm taking it a little deeper with this, and I'm not against anger management. I'm just coming at it from a different angle to say that we need to look deeper and see what's causing the frustration, what's causing the stress. Are we living in 1, 2, or 3 of those 9 categories as just our normal life? You may still have lack of peace in your addiction or recovery from paranoia, guilt, shame, remorse, resentment, which keeps you constantly stressed. You may be like the turtle who is stressed whenever you're out of your comfort zone or when you feel threatened or exposed. You may be living in a situation where you feel constantly insulted or made fun of or cornered or stuck or being held back from growth or your dreams and desires. You may have had a traumatic event in your past which threatened your family, your belongings, your very life, and this event replays in your mind whenever you feel unsafe or exposed or helpless. All of these situations keep your brain wired and on alert to do anything that makes you feel threatened. So, my advice is to get in touch with your thoughts and feelings and to do a regular self-check if you find your emotions are all over the place, and identify what those emotions are and why they're there. Talk it through with a good friend or coach. Remember, if you leave them unchecked, it's like a hair trigger on your snapping turtle. And as R. Douglas Fields concluded, in response to sudden danger, you will react automatically and without thinking. I'd like to close with a song that was written by George Harrison, but they actually gave to a young British artist for his first release rather than record it themselves. And it's called Sour Milk Sea. And I'm choosing this one because I think when we are caught in stress all the time, it's like swimming in a sea of sour milk. And it's going to taste bad when it touches our lips. It's going to smell bad in our nostrils. So here's the lyrics, guys. If your life's not right, doesn't satisfy you, don't get the breaks like some of us do. Better work it out. Find where you've gone wrong. Better do it soon, as you don't have long. Get out of Sour Milk Sea. You don't belong there. Get back to where you should be. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you would like to join an online group or get one-on-one counseling to help you with your snapping turtle, please message me on the link in this podcast or by email at davidfromatod@gmail.com or go to my website www.fromatod.org and click on the contact page. You can keep in touch with what we're doing in From A to D by following me on Instagram at David From A to D. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.